you. All right, I'm warmed up now. So yeah, what are we doing here? I'm a musician and I've been a guitarist all my life, and I'm in business. So how am I in business? I don't know. I mean, it's been quite a long journey. I'm not the best guitarist. I see who's really good out there. There's some really fucking good players out there who are in astonishing technique and capability on the guitar. That's never really been my thing. Because I never sat in a room. I don't practice enough, okay? I'll be honest with you. I practiced between the age of 14 and 24. I was locked away and I practiced all the time. And since I started working like in bands and professionally, I got a bit more lazy with practicing because I wanted to have a life, you know, a bit more of a life. I do have a life. I've got a family and kids and friends and, I don't sit there all day playing the guitar. But what I do is I want to work as a musician. So how do I do that? And I think I figured it out. Is the sound is the number one thing. Sound. I just got to get a good sound. Because if I get a good sound, then I work. That's how it's been. That's been my experience. So I put all my attention into sound. Not to play fast, although sometimes I can play fast and it's fun and it's silly. But really, for me, it's the sound. So I can spend all day just doing that, just getting a really clear, pure sound. And it can be quite tiring for the people around me, and it's not easy. But when I'm practicing, I'm not performing. There's two different things. Practicing and performing, there's no connection. When you practice, or when I practice, if it sounds musical, then I'm doing it wrong. It should be like a machine. It's almost like I just want to have control over the sound. So the other thing with discipline is I don't really enjoy playing scales. I'll be honest with you, and so all guitar teachers here, don't listen to me. Listen to your teacher. If he says play scales, you play scales. So my way around that problem is I really, really love Bach. And Bach is full of scales and arpeggios. That's all there is. It's just that it's scales and arpeggios with a lot of personality. So that's what I choose to do to stay in shape. So I practice Bach, even though I don't play Bach professionally. That's my yoga for music. That's my Tai Chi, or that's my whatever. That's my discipline. Even though I'm not a classical guitarist. I go on YouTube, I see some incredible players. Really incredible. I'm never going to be that good. But I love the music, and I love the scales. So for instance, I'll give you an example, a tune like this one, a lute tune. That's really nice, but when I practice it, it doesn't sound like that. It sounds like this. So all I care about is sound. So if I can play it like that, there's a good chance that I can perform it if I want to, but I don't usually. I practice this stuff so that I can perform my stuff. You see what I mean? And so it's quite difficult to hang out with. I can do that for hours, and even while I'm watching TV sometimes, I'm just doing it. There's another one which is. Hyper slow, and I'm not going to do it for you now, but that's really difficult to play it slowly. It's easy to do it like that. And so really that's the first thing I want to talk about is sound and control. It's almost like there's a lot of guitar players there. I see them all the time, and they play me some stuff, and I say to them, they play me some incredible fast runs, and I say to them, can you play that slowly? And usually they can't. And the reason they can't is because what they're doing is really muscle memory. It's a reflex. It's not in control. And it's really difficult to play flat and in control. One of my friends who's a musician, a pianist, he told me that it's when you're practicing, it's really important to play without dynamics. So no ups and downs. Playing scales is easy, you know, like everything the same. But playing Bach, it's difficult because it's so musical. So to do like it's so lyrical, I'd have to do. Everything the same. It's not very musical. But it's great to be able to do that. And it's not easy, like I said, to be around a musician who does that all day. That's why I've been married a couple of times, you know? And anyway, that's another thing. We'll talk about that later. Okay, so that's that thing. I really have to stress that. That's my mantra, and that's my philosophy with being a musician and a practicing musician, is that when I practice, I have to deconstruct everything I know, just put it on the floor and start from zero. And zero means just playing pure notes. It's not very exciting, but I really think it's worth it. You should try it. Because if you play like that for an hour, and then have a cup of tea, a break, and then play the pieces that you really like, I guarantee that you'll play them better and in more control and with a better sound. Okay, we covered with that. Okay, with sound. The other thing I wanted to talk about, because I'm just going to talk a bit and then we'll have a chat, okay? Is that cool? And maybe you can ask me some questions. The other thing that's important is working with other musicians. I love working with other musicians. And the best musicians that I've worked with, I'm very lucky because I've played with some of the best in the world. The best musicians and singers are the ones who complement each other. So playing ensemble, it's all about trying to make the other person sound good. So you make it your focus to make the musicians around you shine. Do whatever you have to do to make them sound good. Guess what happens? You sound good. It's just logic, and it's got to be the same in all walks of life, in all business, and in all, it's teamwork. It's like football, you know, you watch Barcelona play, it's the same thing. It's all complementing each other. When you play in a band where somebody's there on their own kind of trip or agenda, well, that's cool too, but it's not very satisfying for the other guys in the band, so maybe you don't have much of a future with that. So really, I think probably the best example of playing, of how important it is to play ensemble is watching a really good string quartet. Because there's no way that a string quartet could function if somebody was there on their own agenda. You know what I mean? And I think that's really important. It's easy to say it, but it's really important when you play in a band or in a duo or a trio or with a singer, is to really listen. Can you listen as much as you can play? It's the same as in a conversation. And can you say very little and support the people around you? So do you have to say everything? And it's like Miles Davis, you know, it's like, it's what you don't say. It's the spaces that and the silence and that really make the difference. You know, the greats of jazz really know about that, like Herbie Hancock, Miles Davis. That's a real masterclass in how to play ensemble. And a great string quartet. Or a great orchestra, you know. So that's the other thing I wanted to talk about. And what else? We're going to start a discussion and then a lot of things will come up. But this is just where I am right now with my career. I've had a great career. I work with the best people in the world. And I really love it. But I couldn't work with them if I was ambitious for myself, if I was just doing my own thing. It wouldn't work. I remember my first really big break came with Phil Collins. I was 28 years old and I was invited to the studio to play on a really big album. It sold 13 million records. I mean, it was incredible. But I remember that was like a turning point in my life where up until that point, I'd always been trying to impress the people that I was playing with and do something that's really, you will notice, that you take notice of. But I remember I just came up with, on a song called Another Day in Paradise, I just came up with and I was just warming up. I was just kind of tuning up, warming up. And he said, yes, that's it. And I went, no, I can do something much better than that. But he said, no, I want that. Because that sounds good for the song. And that was a turning point for me. That made me realize that it's not about me, and it's not about my skill. It's, can I do what's right for the song? Because the music is first. The music comes first. It's almost like the best percussion players, or the best actors, or the best people who do whatever they do. It's almost like you don't notice what they do. The best percussion players are the ones where you don't hear the shaker. You just can't hear it. But it is there. But you would hear it if it wasn't there. You would notice something missing. So that's like selfless. And that's what playing ensemble is all about. It's just taking yourself out of the equation completely. It's not about you, it's about the music. And I can tell you that, you know, I've been working with Sting for a very, very long time, and he is really good at that, because he is the singer. He's the star, he's got his name on the poster, and he's making the lion's share of the money, he's got all the houses and everything. But the thing is that really, he's a team player. I know that, because he puts the music first. The music is before him. Just because he has the name on the poster and it's his songs and everything else about him, that's got nothing to do with it. That's the job, and he's happy to have that fame and fortune. But with that comes a huge responsibility. He provides work for people, he provides work for me, but what he does is the same thing we do, is he's serving the music first. And it's so important to do that. And I've seen bands who are struggling to make it, and I can see why it's not happening, and it's usually because they're thinking about themselves too much, and what their career and their fame and fortune and everything, but it's really not that. And I can tell you from first-hand experience, people like Phil Collins, you know, people I've worked with, a lot of people, you know, Bryan Adams, Sting, Tina Turner, all these people have one thing in common, is that they put the project before themselves. So, that's it really. Musically, I just want to talk about one more thing, is that it's really important for me to play as many different styles of music as I can. I can't just stick to one style. I mean, if you want to play, there's a lot of kids now who just play heavy metal. I love heavy metal, and I've studied it, and I know a little bit about it, or jazz, or funk, or country, or whatever. You can't just stay on one style. You're not gonna grow with that. The best players are the ones that investigate. Let's say, for instance, okay, I'll be honest, I don't really like country music. Country music is not my favorite. But I'm interested. I want to know about it before I comment about it. I can't say to you, I don't like country music. But I'm saying it to you now because I've looked into it and I understand it. That kind of style of Nashville playing, which I really, okay, I get it. It's not what I choose to do, but it's really important to study it for a while. So if somebody says to me, I'm in a recording session and says, can you do something like country there? I go, yeah, I can. I'm not going to go, no, I don't do that. Well then, okay, well then I'm not doing my job. If he says, can you do something romantic and classical? I can do that too. I can do a bit of jazz, I can do a little bit of everything. Sort of okay. An actor. We're all like actors. None of it is real. And it's not about me. But if somebody comes up to me and says, after years of playing, I like your sound, that's the biggest compliment I can ever have. I want you to do your thing. And I'm thinking, what the fuck is my thing? I don't know what my thing is, but I'm starting to learn that it really is just a combination of everything that I listen to and everything that I study and everything that I practice. So there's no end to this. There's no end to the amount of music that I could study. I don't know anything about Czech music, really, but I'm willing to try. Or to, folk music, for instance. Usually I find the best music to be folk music in every country. So the folk music in South America would be folklore music, or in Brazil it would be traditional Brazilian music, not bossa nova, or in America it's the blues. It's real blues, Chicago blues. So I've looked into all of this stuff. I had a teacher in Brazil who taught me traditional Brazilian music. So that's Brazilian and blues, jazz. I mean, I could give you examples of all the stuff that I've really gone quite deep inside. Funk, jazz, and I love it all. I'm not an expert in any of these styles. I go on YouTube and I see people who are experts in just one thing, and they blow my mind. But they don't have, I don't think, I wouldn't change places with them because I'm very happy with my life because I work with all kinds of people all the time. And I have my own band, so it's just great. And I think I'll end it there and just say that I'm very, very lucky to be getting away with it by just practicing slowly and not, this has been my trick. And I'm sharing it with you, that you can do that too. It's just like, slow down, just start again. On a daily basis, just play real simple, play real delicate and pure, and keep your mind and your ears open to styles of music that you might not normally listen to, because you might take something from that style and bring it into your style that you focus on. Maybe you are a classical guitarist or a jazz guitarist, whatever. I recommend, if you're a jazz guitarist, well, let's say you're a classical guitarist, I recommend you spend a week going to heavy metal bars and listening to some heavy metal, because you shouldn't discard the discipline that goes into some of these bands, what they do. You can't just look at them with black hair and you like tattoos and think, that's bullshit, because it's not bullshit. And they can't look at classical musicians and think, that's fucking boring, because it's not. It's a discipline. And I am the lucky one, because I figured out that it's important to be friends with all types of music. And that's why I've got the great life that I have now. And I'll end it there. Thank you. Any questions?
When you said you're going to look into a new style, does that in practice mean that you find a teacher, or do you start to listen and look at videos and concerts? What does it mean?
Yeah, I mean, videos is a new thing. I mean, I do that just because I can, but no, I'll just buy records and I'll do it by ear and I'll try and analyze what's going on. Or I might go to a few clubs. And if I'm in different countries, because I travel all the time, so if I'm in a different country, I'm interested to know what's happening in the folk club, in the small club, not the big place. I don't want to come to the Czech Republic and listen to the biggest pop band. I want to, if I have the time, I would go to a bar or a pub and listen to local musicians. Then I would get something out of it. And then I will probably talk to them, or show me this, or show me that, or I will listen and try and figure it out.
Is there anything, because you're amazingly successful, and is there something you would like to accomplish in the future? Is there something?
Oh, sure, yeah. I mean, there's a lot of things I want to accomplish. Yeah, I mean, the list is endless. The further I go down this road, the more I want to accomplish, and I realize it's not going to happen. I just want to get better. The only thing I really want to accomplish is to stay on the ascendant, is to keep the curve that way, up. Because as soon as it goes flat, well, then I'm going to be in trouble. So all I really want to accomplish is to improve and to just be able to get through one piece of Bach without fucking up, once in my life. That would be an accomplishment.
I mean, when you do on a winter's night you'll sing, how long do you, how long before the D-Day do you get a phone call? How do you plan the project?
Well, he's the same as me. We really get each other as musicians, because he doesn't really know and I don't know. But usually he calls me and says, I want to do this, and I just go, yeah, sure, okay, let's do it. I have no idea what we're going to do, and nor does he. He's just got a concept, and I love concept. Concept rules. Concept is more important than anything. It's like, what do you want to say? And he had something he wanted to say, and I back him up 100% in everything he does. And so we just start from zero. We just like, these are the songs that I like, and some John Dowland, and there's no, it wasn't Dowland, it was Henry Purcell. It's like, you listen to this heavy Purcell music, and how the hell are we going to play that? How are we going to pull that off? So I just sit there with them, we listen to it, what's the chords, figure it out, and we laugh a lot, and how stupid we are figuring it out. And then you listen to it, the final product, and it's produced, and it's released, and everyone's like, oh, it's serious. It's not serious, but we have fun. It's got to be joyous. We have joy with what we do, and there's always slight tongue-in-cheek, because nothing is too serious, really. And Sting, a lot of people think that he takes himself seriously, but I can assure you that he doesn't. This is a common misconception. So we work hard. He has a strong work ethic. So we look at the piece of music, we analyze it, we break it apart. What are the chords? I know the language of chords. It's like learning Italian or something, you know, I can speak it. And so we figure it out. I speak it in a different way than he does. He's got a much broader view, so that I go more forensically inside what the chords are, or what's happening with the harmony, and then, you know, we move from there.
So at the moment you don't know what's your next big thing?
No. No, my next big thing is tonight's show.
Cool. Good to hear.
You know, that's all it really is. I really mean that. That's all I'm thinking about now. Is I've got a gig tonight, and I'm here with you now. So really, I'm about the present. You know, sure, I make plans, but we sometimes talk about what we might do with Sting, or I've got my band, and I've worked with other people, and we make plans, and I want to stay in business. But really, if I think too far ahead, I'll go crazy. And if I think too far back, I'll go crazy too. You know. Don't be shy.
Mentioning your technique working on just your left hand, focusing on your right hand. Does that apply to your electric guitar?
Yeah.
How much do you practice both?
Well, actually, it's interesting because electric guitar is how I make most of my living, is because I tour in a band with playing electric guitar. But I only play acoustic guitar if you leave me on my own, because this is my instrument. But electric is a lot easier to play if you've been playing acoustic all day. And I have a different technique. I use a pick, and I've learned how to use sounds and some effects and stuff. And sure, it's a different technique, and also I have the guitar lower, so it's not here where I'm in total control of my left arm. I don't know why I have it so low. I think it's just because it looks cooler, but it's fucking hard to play. I'm not going to play electric guitar like this. It's going to be like this, right? But it's harder to play like that. That's why I look like a bit distorted and I'm just going like this. It's because I'm just trying to get the chord. So it is a different discipline. It's a totally different discipline, and with sound, how loud should you be with the drums and everything. It's totally different discipline, yeah. But it is a discipline. Go ahead.
You've mentioned your main practicing was when you was a teenager,
Yeah.
actually. And do you think, is there any critical age when to start playing guitar, or some age not to miss the possibility?
That's a really interesting question. I think that the older you are, the better chance you have of doing it right. But the only problem with being older is that you have you have more fear. So when you're 8 or 10, there's no fear. It's like kids who play chess. Because I like playing chess. That's my hobby. That's my number one hobby, is I play chess. But I don't trust kids. Because they don't have any fear. And so really, as a practicing musician, it probably is a good time to practice around that time. If you have a good teacher who can teach you about playing slow and pure. But it's quite hard, that. So I think it's a tricky one, though, because I think you can start playing guitar at 40 years old and be sensible about it with a good teacher and just go real slow, you know, like, okay, it's like this, but you haven't got that fire, maybe, and fearlessness that you can be the best. You know, that goes away slowly. It's like tennis players and athletes. It's when they lose, they start believing that they can lose. You know, again, it's like boxers. And how do we get talking about sports? Sorry, it's like I can go off, stop me, you know, on another tangent. Yeah. So I really think that any time it's good to start playing the guitar or any instrument. But it's a good teacher is important, I think, and just common sense. Because I know people who practice 8 hours a day, but that doesn't impress me. If you can practice 8 minutes a day and do something good, that's a lot more impressive. Really. Because you can practice 8 hours a day and do a lot of damage if you're holding the instrument the wrong way, if you're practicing too fast, or if you've got your wrist in the wrong position, then you're in real trouble. And I know some great musicians who changed their technique midway through their careers, and one is the drummer Vinnie Colaiuta, who's arguably the greatest drummer ever. And he changed his technique. He's when he was 35 years old, which was a very bold thing to do. And he started again.
Excuse me, how do you explain all that to your bass player? If you're in a small band, in a small town, where everything in a band is about your ego, okay? You meet up for a rehearsal, and everybody wants to show their best, the top of their abilities, to impress the girls, the neighbors, and stuff like that. But if you have a goal, and you mention that you have to do everything for the music, how do you explain that to your bandmates? Because you're threatened to leave eventually.
I think I know what you're saying. I think the best way to explain is just by example. Is to just, when I look at a band on stage, I always draw, my attention is always drawn to the person who's just in the moment and not performing. And I gravitate towards that person who's just like really listening. You can feel it, that they're just so into what they're doing. And that's why I wanted to be a guitarist. Usually, you know, a lot of the bands that I saw when I was growing up, I always used to look at the moody guitarist with his head down, who was just so involved with what was happening. That's how, you can't explain stuff like that. But I'm trying to explain it to you, but you can sort of say, look, just calm down, you know, it's like, you don't want a bass player who goes up there in front, it's like, wants to make a show, because nobody really, that's not what a show is. A show is really just being cool is like being attached to the musicians. And the audience pick up on that, I think. Don't perform, you don't need to perform, because if you're bypassing the band, then you can't go anywhere with that. You could probably have some fun, and you might hang out with the girl in the second row, and she might want to hang out with you or kiss you or something, but really, that's about it, really. I don't think that's the Holy Grail. The Holy Grail is having a gig, because you don't, you know, the band's going to go on tour, they don't want to leave you behind, you know what I mean? So really, does that make sense?
Yes.
Yeah?
When you started off saying that sound is the most important thing to you,
Yeah.
how do you cope with the fact that on stage you have almost no control of it? It's all in the hands of the engineers, right?
I don't agree with you. No. I've got control over that. A good sound engineer knows about dynamics too, but I use a lot of dynamics on stage. So I'll tell the sound guy usually, just leave it there. That's the sound. And my dynamic range is from 0 to there. See, the thing is that I want to be able to play really quietly. Look. See, I've got a good range of dynamic there. It's not all the same. So if the sound man knows that I'm doing that, then he can leave me alone, you know. But sometimes on a big show, like in an arena or a stadium, you can't really do that because it doesn't work. Real subtlety doesn't work. And also, you have to explore space a lot more in an arena because there's so much echo. So I don't play so much. And you've got to be a little bit more direct. Playing in a small thing like this, I can't fake anything, so I've got to really exaggerate the dynamics almost. It's almost good to exaggerate it. So really, I don't feel I'm out of control, but sometimes you get a bad sound guy who thinks he's helping you when he's not. When you play quietly, he turns it down, and when you play loud, he turns it up. That's ridiculous. I can't do anything with that.
Thank you for information about the sound. It's very nice. And I like what did you did in Brazilian song.
Yeah.
With the rhythm. Is something special about rhythm?
Yeah. Bossa Nova, yeah, it's kind of Latin American rhythm.
Do you use some polyrhythms or some special techniques? How do you rehearsal with this?
Well, actually, to be honest, I mean, I was born in Argentina, okay, in South America, where there's only two things that matter. One is football and the other is music. And I like both. And so really, I was brought up quite lucky to listen to that kind of stuff. It was the soundscape of my childhood was just that kind of... Just like, it's really about syncopation. It's syncopation, that's what it is. It's like a lot on the off. It's like a 1, 2, 3, 4. It's like almost like ska music. You know what I mean? And tango music from Buenos Aires, everything is on 1. It's very aggressive. It's like a. And I love that too because it's so romantic and it's so intense. So really, rhythm, I was very lucky to be brought up with a lot of different rhythms, and you just need to practice that stuff. It's just listen to it. Listen to it slow, just figure it out. If you listen to a simple one, it's like... It's really simple actually, it's like a... And sometimes they do, what I like in Brazil, what they do is... It's like really kind of twisted, what they do it on the, it's like a combination of tango and bossa nova. So really, rhythm is everything. You just got to break it down and listen to it and figure out, or just like go on YouTube, or just look at the tablature and learn it from there.
This was interesting. You just did a song by something. It was the bell down.
Yeah.
Do you carry that whole repertoire in your head?
Yeah, I have it in my head. But I actually wrote that one. Yeah. No, but I mean, we co-wrote that one. But yeah, I know he sometimes jokes that the only reason I've got the gig is because I remember all his stuff. I'm like his hard drive. So when we get to a rehearsal and if he says I want to do this song, this song, this song, I'm the guy that knows the song and I teach it to the other guys. And I teach it to him too. So it's quite funny that, yeah, I do have a good memory from music. And that's why I like playing Bach. Bach helps me with memory, because some of these tunes just go on forever. They're relentless. That's why I really admire violin players who know the partitas and sonatas, you know, for violin. It's like, if you carry that in your head, like to play the chaconne, and I mean, it's a remarkable amount of memory. And you know, it's incredible what classical players can remember. Yeah.
Do you have a special way on how to create music?
How to create? Yeah, I can give you an example. It's a combination of luck. You just need to know when the luck is on you. That's the thing. Because a lot of people, everyone is capable, I think, but it's a question of recognizing when you've had a good opportunity, because some people miss that. You know, I'm sure you're a bass player or you know musicians who just do something, and you go, what's that? That's really cool, and they go, it's nothing. But the good ones are the ones that know, that's a gift. It's like a gift from God. And that's just, for me, composition is exactly like that. It's a bit of inspiration, which is like a crossword puzzle. You're given one across, is this is for free. But your job is to finish it. And substandard, not good composition, is just repeating that little gift and then putting a loop on it and a drums and a bass line and some girl singing on it. That's not cool. Your job is to take it on a journey and just go, where did this go? And so a good example of that, there was a song that I wrote with Sting called Shape of My Heart. And a lot of people ask me about this, and where I got the inspiration for this was piano chords by Chopin, which are sixth chords, using these kind of chords. They're very classical. Just messing around with that, it's like a... It's just experimenting, and then you add a different kind of rhythm to it, maybe a more South American rhythm or just a folk rhythm, because I love piano chords. Piano chords are inspiring to me. More than guitar chords almost, which are more like block, like a good Chopin. If you add a simple, you know, that felt like it kind of wrote itself, but the first inspiration was just like, which I kind of stole. I don't mind saying that I stole that idea, that concept from Chopin. So I love it when I hear in America that some rapper has taken that riff and just put a beat on it and start saying motherfucking this, motherfucking that. And on top of, because what they don't know, what they don't realize is that they're playing Chopin. They think they're so cool, and what they don't realize is that I'm making the money out of what they're doing, so I can sleep well at night, you know? But another example of composition is like, to use that thing of the crossword puzzle, is I've got a tune called Eclipse, which is like a... Really, the clue, let's see if we use that analogy, what was the one across was just... It's already a clue. I've got just a beautiful situation. It's like, where do I go? It's a bit of luck. My finger just fell there by mistake, because I probably meant... Probably what I meant to do, but I went. And then I felt I had to go somewhere, and so I don't want to repeat it, so I went. And then it just kind of writes itself. You've got to trust. And you've got to go with the flow and just like really zone in on the gift that was given to you, because it is a gift. And anyone who says that it came from them, it's really not really being honest, because there is a lot of luck involved, and I think that the luck is the gift, and the skill is really recognizing that gift, and the hard work is working on it and getting it right and organizing it, arranging it. And that's what we did with Shape of My Heart together, Sting and I. We took a little bit of work, you know. How do we get from this key to that key, you know? What's the correct route? And so you have to make mistakes and just try everything.
Could you tell us something about environment when you are composing? Do you need some special environment or just...
That's a really good question.
Just a cup of tea or
no.
Just playing guitar or...
I'm really glad that you mentioned that, because I know people who, you know, I'm not going to mention any names, but I know some people who need to go to Barbados, or they need to go to the south of France, or they need to go to somewhere beautiful, Hawaii, to write their next album, or their next book, or their next something. But that's bullshit. It's not, I don't agree with that at all, because it's really here, it's inside. A lot of people want to go to India to find themselves, but then they get to India and then they find themselves, you know, and nothing's really changed. So I don't agree with that. I think that the condition, the way my technique, if you like, for that is I don't need to go somewhere good, but I need to put myself into a zone, almost like a psychic does, or I need to turn on the Wi-Fi. But I don't have much battery life, so I've got to think, when is a really good time for me to really utilize this and download everything? Because I've written some of the best stuff in the most horrible places. Like in, I remember I wrote some good tunes that I'm happy with in really cheap hotels in Hamburg or Cologne. Sorry, Stefan, my manager comes from Cologne. It's a beautiful place. But I was in Cologne once in a horrible hotel, and I came up with something good that I'm happy with, that's quite inspiring. So I don't need to be somewhere really amazing. But I do need to, it takes a lot of energy out of me to just get really into that zone, because when it's on, I want to stay with it. I want to keep it on and just do a whole album very often. I stay there. And sometimes it takes a few days, sometimes a few weeks. But then the Wi-Fi goes down, and then I have to just like, okay, now I record it. And sometimes I get a very good signal, and sometimes I don't. But one thing for sure is that it does take a lot of work. It doesn't all fall on the floor for me for free. That does happen to some people, like it happened to Stevie Wonder, to Sting, or to some great artists that we know where everything just fell into place for them, and they were in the right time in the right place. Paul McCartney, where it just was, everything they did was just right. But I think they appreciate that more now as older musicians, that they can't seem to find that place that they were in. But I believe as an instrumental musician that I can go on the ascendant, like people, the greats like Herbie Hancock, who still write great music, John McLaughlin. You know, these are the people who I really, really respect, because they're still trying to push the composition and the playing. Because they didn't have that time in pop culture that was just perfect for them, where everything they did connected. And that's hard to have had that success and then to never have that real spark again. But I'm happy as an instrumental musician that I've got a chance to improve.
If I can continue with this question. So once you know you've come across that great idea, how do you capture it? Do you carry a portable recording machine with you, or do you develop the idea in your mind?
Sometimes I write it down, or I just use my iPhone, or in the old days it was just like a Walkman or something, or just record just the idea in case, or else I won't forget it. If it's something really that I know is good, I might just write down what the chords are on a napkin. If I'm in Because actually some of the best ideas, really, you don't need to be with your instrument. You can be in the car driving, and I just have a concept, like a color or a, you know, and it's interesting that with inspiration, it's not music that gives me inspiration to write music. You know, it's other situations. It's like your job as a musician, as a composer, is to translate these inspiring moments that happen to you in your life, like meeting someone amazing on a bus, or having a great meal, or just a great love experience. Your job is to turn that into music. But you can't look for music to find inspiration for music. Like babies don't come from babies, you know? But yeah, it's by the same token, it's good to listen to music and analyze it just for the discipline of understanding harmony and theory. That's a different thing. And then you can use some of that knowledge and those chops to do the work. It's like, how do you get from this chord to that chord, and what knowledge do you have of cadences and things like that? I'm starting to talk shit now, right? Yeah.
When you are composing something, do you cooperate with Nicholas or Rani or Michael?
Yeah, sometimes, yeah, actually. They're great musicians, but usually when I compose, it's a very solitary thing. I love collaborating. Usually when I collaborate, it's songwriting where I collaborate. Because I come up with the chords, Sting comes up with the words, and then we sort of figure it out. But there's not that many people I compose with. But I'd like to do it more. But instrumental music is very much a solitary process for me. But I love what they do in the studio. So they might come in the studio, I present them with the idea, and they'll come up with an idea that I never thought of. And I'll think, wow, that changes the way I'm thinking of this composition. So I might react to that and do it differently, but it's still, the composition doesn't really change. It's just the aesthetic, or the production values of it might change, or the color, you know?
Are there any moments or situations when you are nervous before a performance?
Yeah, definitely, yeah.
And what do you do with it?
That's a really good question. The way I deal with that is, first of all, by acknowledging it. I just go, okay, I feel nervous. Not to try and fight it. It's like trying to fight. You have to accept it. Just, okay, I'm feeling nervous and I'm scared. Because if you try and ignore that, then it just gets worse. So get through it. But the moments that make me the most nervous are not the moments that you might imagine. Like I've done, I remember my first gig with Sting was in Uruguay in front of 80,000 people. And before then I'd just been playing in small gigs and clubs and maybe a few theatres. And I remember thinking, I was so nervous. I was just like, I thought, I can't do this. This is like too scary. It's like so many people in the audience. And I went up to Sting before we went on stage and I said, this is more people than I've ever played to, Sting. And he went, well, I imagine it is. But I said, no, I mean ever, all together. And he went, but I'll tell you what, that was the most easy thing I've ever done in my life. Because I went on stage and I realized it's got nothing to do with me. Everyone's there for the spectacle. It wasn't even about singers, everyone's there celebrating music. And so I thought it was the easiest thing. I got on stage and it was like the most beautiful thing because I wasn't nervous. I was just nervous up to that. The times that I do get nervous is when I'm coming up and talking and playing in front of musicians and doing a clinic because I feel that I'm self-conscious and I feel very, I feel that the mirror is on me. It's like, okay, what is it all about then? And I think I'm no good. And that's when I'm nervous. Like I am a little bit now, but I'm more relaxed now. But I've done concerts in front of guitarists. Which is pretty humiliating. Some in America, some in all over the world. I've done, okay, Dominic Miller. let's see your shit then. And then I'm like naked. I feel naked. But with being naked also comes a level of empowerment. You know, so you can feel powerful by being nervous and naked, because it's such a strong feeling that I actually start to enjoy it. And that's how I conquer the nerves sometimes. I remember, I'm just going to tell you one time I was in Cuba a few years ago, and I did a clinic like this in the Music College Conservatoire of Cuba. And I can tell you that the level of musicianship in Cuba is like something that you can't imagine. It's so high. Because to be in the conservatoire, you have to get in is almost impossible. And you have a slightly better life than everyone else. And you will become a professional musician. So they're all going to be professionals, there's no question. And I remember 500 people, it was quite big, and the big speech, and I'm ready, you know, like I am for you here. And they said, Mr. Dominic Miller, you know, you come and you teach us, and they said, but first we want to show you one of our students who wants to play for you. He's as a gift for you. He's written this piece of music for you. And this guy comes up, and I'm going, okay, so I'm sitting there ready to do my thing, and this guy comes up, and he's like, probably the best guitarist I've ever heard. I thought, oh. It was horrible. But then, you know, I thought, who am I? So then I think the other way to get around nerves is just be yourself. You know, you can only be yourself. You can't be anybody else. And if people have come to see you, and get over it. If you can't play well, it doesn't matter. Because the truth will come out in the end.
Excuse me, how did you first get noticed before you hit the big names?
I was living in London, and I was known to be the guy that I was doing studio stuff with just like a few people, friends, and for free a lot of the time, but I became known as the guy who could do anything, but not very well, but just like if you want, he can play, yeah, that guy, Dominic, he plays rock, but he also plays, you know, so I ended up doing so many different things that people didn't understand. Well, what are you? What do you do? And I'm like, I don't know, you know, I don't know what I do, but do you want me to do it? You know? But I was known for just the guy who can fix any situation in a studio and play on any song and get a sort of do the right thing, sort of. When in doubt, call Dominic. And that's how it worked. And then it just escalated to bigger sessions. And then the big break was with Paul Young, Level 42, and bands in the 80s. And then they got bigger and bigger, and then it was with Julia Fordham, this girl who had a big producer, Hugh Padgham, and then Hugh Padgham brought me in to work with Phil Collins. And that was the first big record I played on, which won all the Grammys and everything. And that gave me the passport, the sort of key to get into the business. And that's how I met Sting, is because suddenly I'm the new guy, and then I was playing on bigger records, and it all just changed. Like when I was 28, 29. Yeah.
And what would be the recommendation for the rest of us to get noticed these days? You know, there are SoundClouds, we post our music, but how do you make people listen to your music?
You just go out there and you play. You put yourself in any situation, because I don't believe in luck. There's no luck, because I really I think that what you do is you probably do the things that you might not normally do. That's what you do. So if somebody calls you and says, do you want to play one night in this place? And you go, well, no, because the money isn't right, and I just don't think I should be doing that. That's not really what I do. Well, that's a mistake. If you're free, do it. If you're not doing anything else, do whatever comes your way. That's how you get noticed. And that's how I got noticed, and it's because of that. I used to work with this percussion player, Miles, when I was in my early 20s, just jamming, hanging out, and I used to do his sessions, and he used to do some of mine. But he's the one that got a bigger gig with a bigger artist, and he's the one who invited me to play with Julia Fordham, who nobody knows. And that's how I met Hugh Padgham. But he wouldn't have called me if I hadn't picked him up from his house and got all his gear in the back of the car and gone to this rehearsal studio for nothing. I just did it because I wanted to play. So, to answer your question, I think that to get noticed, you just have to be known as somebody who is enthusiastic. Because you can't be a diva. You can never be a diva. It never, ever works to be a diva. In any situation. And there are a lot of musicians who are. And those are the ones who are successful for a bit, but not for very long. So I would recommend, to get noticed, just do as many different things as you can. Yeah.
When did you realize that your life, or you, will actually do music for a living?
Well, I knew actually from a very young age that this is what I wanted to do. When I was 15, when I was 16, I went to Berkeley because I thought I was quite good at that point. You know, talented, good player. And I got to Berkeley and I thought, oh Jesus, there were 15-year-old, 16-year-old boys and girls who were like much better than me. And then I thought, okay, now I'm gonna get serious. And I started working professionally when I was 19. I was never in any doubt that this would be my career. My first professional job was at Green Park Station on the Piccadilly line. So when I made money, I knew I could make money, and I thought, this is a great way to make money, and if I do this every day, I'll have enough to live. And but then things got better. And so yeah, I was never in any doubt. But I've had some depression around this. There've been times when I was 22, 23, where I was really lost. I didn't know what to do because I wanted to be an instrumental sort of guitarist in the sort of jazz scene, and it was going nowhere. I thought, oh, fuck, I'm not making any money, and it's like. But then I remember thinking, I've got to start joining other bands. So I did that, and I took away the idea of being a solo guitarist, and I just joined a band, and we toured, and I thought, this is, okay, now we're on the right track, and I was making money, but not real money, just a weekly wage. So I thought, okay, and I had 2 small babies, and I thought, now this makes sense, now. But I've always been worried about money, and I still worry about money, because I've got bigger overheads. I've got 6 kids, spread over 2 projects, 2 wives, it's ridiculous, it's crazy, I should never, and I used to live in a big house in Wimbledon, and then another one in a few houses. I'm just like, I'm a fucking musician. I don't want all this responsibility. If I didn't have any kids or wives, I'd be really rich, I'd have a Ferrari, but I don't have anything. I just have this. And this makes me richer than you can possibly imagine. It's just being able to work with friends and with people that I love and respect. There's no richer experience than that.
So by sharing the story of the Green Park at 19, are you saying that you never went to college?
I did go to college, actually, yeah. I went to music college in London. But we weren't supposed to work professionally. And the other thing that happened is I used to work in a restaurant, a Brazilian restaurant, around the same time. And we weren't supposed to work professionally. But I remember playing in this restaurant, and the leader, the principal of the Guildhall College of Music and Drama, was in the restaurant. And I'm playing. So I was busted, But it's a funny story, this, but actually he was in the restaurant too. He was there with his boyfriend. So he was busted too. So, because he was married, right? So I thought, hang on a minute, which is worse? So nobody said anything. And he was hoping I wouldn't say anything, and I was hoping he wouldn't say anything, so I didn't. But I'm telling you now. And it was quite funny, but yeah, I was in college, but I dropped out of college because I didn't, I just wanted to work. I started playing in bands and traveling, and I went up to Scotland and played in God, you know, I mean, you don't want to know all the nightmares and stories. I've got a lot of stories about that experience. The best one of all is probably when I went to Brazil. I was 20, I think, and I said to my father, I want to go to Brazil. I have to go to Brazil. This is the home of guitar, and trust me, this is going to work. And so he gave me some money, you know, $500 or just a few $100 in travelers' checks and a small place to stay. So I got to Rio and a plane ticket. I got to Rio and I spent all the money in the first 3 days partying, of course. And I just had a really good time. And I don't remember much about it, but the reason I was there is because I was looking for a guitarist called Sebastião Tapajós. He's this guitarist who I've always loved. And I asked everyone around, do you know where Sebastián is? And people go, no. And finally I found a musician community club where they said, yeah, he lives in Sao Paulo. He doesn't live in Rio. I just thought maybe he lives in Rio, but he doesn't. He lives in Sao Paulo. So I went to Sao Paulo, took a propeller plane with some of the money that I had left, and I arrived at his doorstep because somebody gave me his address. No phones, nothing. And I knocked on his door and I said, hi, I've come for guitar lessons. And he went, what? You know, he's never taught anyone. He wasn't expecting me, nothing, no plan. I just showed up and like, I am your protege that come from God, you know, and smiling and English and sunburnt. And the guy looked at me and thought, I can't help you. I don't teach. In very bad Spanish he was talking, because I speak Spanish, and he's Portuguese. And so eventually he felt sorry for me. He said, well, where are you staying? And I said, I don't know. Can I stay with you? And he said, no. It's impossible. And so he said, I can't teach you and you can't stay here. And I went, oh, okay, well, I'll go back to the airport then. And then he sort of thought, okay, just wait, let's think about this. So you've got nowhere to stay. So he said, I know a place you can stay that's cost $15 a night. And I went, okay, right. How much money have you got? I've got $60, you know, so that's cool. So I went and stayed in this place called Hotel Pink. And that's actually, it's not a normal hotel, you know. It's not your average hotel. It's a place where people were coming and going all day, if you know what I mean. And I made some good friends there, of course. I'm friendly, you know. And then he would pick me up there at Hotel Pink every day. I was the only person staying the night there. And so he'd pick me up in his car, and we'd sometimes pick up his wife or his kids, and you know, like it was just, I lived with him. I was in his pocket, and he taught me. He really taught me for a few, almost a week. Actually, it was 7 or 8 days, and he took me to clubs, and his wife was working as a burlesque dancer, so that was fun, hanging out backstage. And he went to take me to see a guitarist called Baden Powell. I don't know, some of you may have heard of him. He's the #1 guitarist, and he's like my Jimi Hendrix. And I saw him play in a club, and I met him, and this was like a religious experience. And so that was a great thing. So you talk about, I've got a lot of stories like that, you know, what it takes to study and to really want to do this. And I had a return ticket, so then he took me to the airport and I flew back to Rio, then flew home with this rich experience of hanging out with musicians and, you know, just amazing. And you've got to do that. If you really want this, you've got to throw yourself into the deep end, you know, which I did. And I'm really glad for it. And I'm glad for my father for having the craziness to just send me away with a few travelers' checks. I'm very grateful for that. And I still have experiences like that, you know. I go to different countries and I throw myself into different musical situations and I get richer for it. So I recommend it to all musicians. Just if somebody says, do you want to try it? Let's just try it, whatever it is, just go for it. Because if you don't try, you'll never know.
The obviously very solid grasp of musical theory that you got in college, or did you?
Some of it in college, but a lot of it is common sense. Most of it is from Bach, and because I study it, I try to analyze how chords are changing. I mean, it's so complex. But jazz musicians are the best at music theory. That's the difference between jazz musicians and classical musicians, is that classical musicians have the sound. They've got a great sound, and they've they speak, they can interpret, they recite music. They recite it, almost like a poem. Jazz musicians speak the language of music. They speak it. And that's the difference, is that jazz musicians really care about harmony and what's happening with the chords. So they'll look at a Bach piece and think, what are the chords? Yeah. Whereas a classical musician, if you ask a classical musician to write out a chord sequence, like a real book chord sequence, A flat minor seventh, or is it D half diminished, whatever, they don't know what you're talking about. Whereas they should. It's important to know, I think. It's important to know what's going on. What chord is this? Well, I don't know, I'm just playing it. This is how it's done. This is how I was taught. So, musical theory, I'm still learning it, I'm still studying it. So, it's a never-ending struggle and a joy. And really, I find most of it in Bach music. Because it's so modern. To me, it's modern.
You mentioned...
Yeah, go on.
You mentioned your father. I would like to ask you if your parents are musicians too.
Yeah, amateur musicians. My parents are very good amateur musicians. My father plays the blues and tango, because I was brought up in Argentina. He's American, but he lived there when he was a kid. My mother used to play Irish folk songs to me. So yeah, I mean, I'm very lucky to have been brought up with such a rich musical background. And my sister taught me how to play guitar, so it's a family kind of... I'm the only one who went. But I think it's cool to be an amateur musician. You don't have to be professional to be good. I know some very, very good amateur musicians, because the great thing about being an amateur is that there's no pressure. You know, everyone goes, hey, that's cool. You know, as soon as, and it was like that for me, but as soon as I was 19 and 20, and I told my parents and all my friends, because everyone used to think, wow, Dominic, you're great. And I was like, wow, it's amazing. You must have friends whose kids are amazing. Wow, she's amazing. You should hear her. But the moment that I say, okay, this is what I do now, it's like, you could do better. That's not very good. You start from zero. So, you know, if you're an amateur musician and you learn a piece of Bach, and you get to the end, it's like, great, I've learnt it. And you can be happy with that and play it all your life, and everyone will be around the kitchen or the dining room and living room listening to go, bravo, that's really nice. And everybody's happy. That's cool. And I like that. But if you're a professional musician and you learn a piece of Bach, when you get to the end of learning it, you've just arrived at the beginning. And you're never going to get it. Sorry. It's really like that. I mean, there's the violin. I know this piece which I really like. If I were an amateur, I would just go, hey. Sounds great. tiny, tiny, tiny detail is important to me. So I'm never going to get it. But I love the struggle of it.
Yes, but then you will never be satisfied.
I am satisfied. I'm very satisfied because sometimes I get it and sometimes I don't. And but I never get it perfectly. I'm satisfied because it's just such a joy, and it's for me that's the deepest joy. Is just like achieving something, like getting one phrase that sounds like good. I think, oh God, I got it there. That time I got it. And God knows, I'm not religious, but I have like my own secret God, you know, like my conscience, really. That's what it is. And the times that I think, oh, I really got this, you know, but tomorrow maybe not. So it's like a relationship. You have good days and bad days.
What about your children? Do you give them some advice? I mean, musically, like.
Yeah, sure.
If sometimes Mr. Song has she come to listen?
Yeah, I've got 2 kids who are professional musicians. My daughter doesn't really listen to me when it comes to music, because I mean, she's a signed artist, you know, with Sony and stuff. But you know, she's never asked me to play on her record or like, I'm the best. You know what I mean? Why don't you get me to play? She likes Iggy Pop, who's older than me. You know? And she likes all these people, and I'm thinking, but I'm dad, and I'm dumb, and I'm really, really good. And but she said, no, you know, I really like that other guy. It's just like he's playing really good. But now I understand. Would you want your dad to play on your record? Probably not. So, but what I do help her with is business ideas, you know, like accountant and lawyers. So, and we talk quite deeply about, you know, what it takes to work in personalities with bands, and which is the right guy and why not, stuff like that. Yeah. Shall we have one more question? Yeah, and then we wrap it up, okay? Because you must be tired of this. I'm getting tired of talking about this, okay?
What is your process before gig, before show?
Oh, I don't know, I like to just relax. I like to do the same as everybody. Sometimes it's yoga, real yoga, and practice a little bit. I like to hang out with my friends, you know, just be silly, not too serious, you know. Eat, sleep. I'm not on Facebook, so I don't do Facebook or Instagram, so like I used to be, but so I don't have that problem. I like to play chess. You know, sometimes I play. I'm sort of addicted to chess, but I need my computer for that. And if anyone wants a game, because I'm sure you're very good at it here. They usually are in this part of the world. But yeah, I just like to relax. So let's take one more question, okay?
What is the single most valuable piece of musical advice you've ever given?
Wow. Single most important piece of musical advice I've ever been given.
If there is such a thing.
Yeah. Listen more than play. Yeah. I mean, if you can listen, if you can really listen, you've got a good chance of really playing. That and using the use of space. How do you use space? Because it's like with the Bach, there's a lot of time. If you're playing solo, it's like there's no rush. I love the idea that you've just got all the time in the world, and it's just to use that space. And I'll exaggerate now, just to make my point. It's like. too much, but you know, just to explore space and sound, and especially when you're working with other people, is like really let them do it. You know, it's like, what are you saying? And then just respond to it. It's a conversation. And can you listen to what they're saying instead of wanting them to listen to what you're saying? Because that's how it works, and that's how it works in relationships. That's what real camaraderie or like love is. It's like when you you allow the other person to feel good about themselves, then you've got a good chance of having a good relationship. And it's the same with playing with musicians. And if they feel good about... That's why sometimes people keep hiring me and they don't know why they're hiring me, because I think the reason is that they feel good about themselves when I'm there. So, like when I'm there, I think that must be what it is with Sting. It's like, and after 25 years, when I'm in the room playing with him, he feels happy to play his music. And that's because I'm trying to make him, you know, I'm listening to what he's doing. And he's listening to what I'm doing. So that's really the final piece of advice that I would give, is just listen and use space. And that's it. Really? Are we done? Okay, thank you very much.